Welcome to the Lost Signals Reviews, the American Film Institute's Top 100, where we critique the supposed 100 greatest American movies of all time. Join us as we decide if they're worthy of the Mott's Top 100.
Or Mott's. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Lost Signals Reviews, the AFI. Today we are doing number 53, 1978's Deerhunter. I'm Jonathan Niemanzer, here with Scott Thurlow.
It ain't me. I ain't no miner's son.
Stephen Hermosi.
3 bullets.
And Joe Soria.
Say one shot.
So we're going to delve into the shit show, which I expect it to be. Who has a funny logline for us?
Well, I sort of like let off. I was going to go with a working class veteran is certainly something you can be.
Fair enough.
Jesus.
Well, I will dive into the plot with that. So there is an old saying, I forget, I tried to research where it comes from, I couldn't find it, but America is the greatest empire of all time because it not only invades your country, but then it comes back to film in it 20 years later to talk about the struggles of its soldiers in that environment.
While invading.
This is a story about, I'm going to give a due diligence first, and then I'm going to go into kind of a critique on it. It's a story about some friends growing up in a mining town in Pennsylvania. They volunteered to go over to Vietnam, and the good first third, maybe even half of the film is a lot of character work, delving into their lives, their kind of Russian Orthodox traditions. There's a wedding involved with it, and you hear a little bit of, I guess, local or common kind of troubles, such as two men in love with the same woman, marrying a woman who is impregnated by another man, things like that. But then they go off to Vietnam, where they're immediately captured by some vicious Vietnamese who if for those watching can see the image, Russian roulette.
The famous scene segment, Joe.
They end up escaping. So the three friends, one is hurt and psychologically scarred from one protagonist survives and is trying to bring things together. And Christopher Walken ends up becoming a heroin addict and playing Russian roulette professionally. And it's detailing that line. But as I said, that's the due diligence of it. What really happening is you have some friends who grow up in small town America. They go off to a story because it's an exploitation film. There's no difference between Deerhunter versus they're exploitation films which deal with small town America. You're here in they're doing Vietnamese, which historically there are no records of them playing Russian roulette either through war games or culturally, which they both are depicted here. And the idea is that and I was very offended by this film. I actually am very sorry. And not because I felt it was boring. I actually thought the character work was done very well. Often horror films like this would give their left foot for this amount of character work that was put in. Perhaps it was too long. That's an argument there. But I just, it really is just an exploitation film. The war is incidental, thematically incidental. It's about it's a xenophobic work about how pure white Americans are and how dastardly outside of your home and how scary outside of your home is. And I am probably going to give this a 1 because I was angry at this film watching it, and not for a reason of like it challenging my American imperialist ideology, but just because I just thought it was a trash schlock film.
That's fair. So I feel like a lot of what you mentioned will flow into themes, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm going to view it like I'm giving it a 1 as well, narratively. because the opening was like too long. Like we covered an episode, like just trying to be brief. We did the episode about the what was it, movie Hulk film, or the film writer Hulk. Steve, remember, like cutting up acts.
Film critic Hulk.
Right, film critic Hulk, right? So like this movie has about 4 acts, maybe 4.5. And about 2 of them drag on too long. There's too much there with nothing happening. Like especially the wedding things, like maybe we'll disagree, but to me, I don't remember there being that much of it. So yeah, it's setting up group of friends, 3 good friends growing up in a small mining town in Pennsylvania. Then they go to Vietnam for 20 minutes. And then like it's them dealing with the repercussions of that, going back to the small town. And some of it will flow into protagonists. But I'm just saying, like, the story itself, it's not about what's happening. It's about like them and you said, the experience. So sure, but like on paper, to me, it's just like it's a 1.5 at best. And in this case, I'm probably going to round it down and take off a bunch of points because of the dragging, because of the slogging nature of it. This film does not need to be 3 hours and 10 minutes long or whatever it is. So that's how I'm viewing it. I'm going to agree with the 1, maybe for slightly different reasons, but still, nevertheless, that's my narrative score. So go ahead, gents.
All right. Yeah, I am gonna agree with the 1. I think honestly, the first hour of this movie is so fucking boring that like it's
very
like,
slow.
There is like I said earlier, there's a wedding scene that literally lasts longer than weddings that I've been to, and you know, this is gonna, a lot of this stuff is gonna come in later, but the dialogue does not help. I don't think throughout the movie, and there are like just logistical, like strange story problems. Like, are we supposed to believe that Walken's character has like been playing Russian roulette without dying for fucking months and like winning all the time?
We mentioned that earlier.
If not years.
It's a plot hole, I guess. But here, all right, Steve-O, like this is my joke. I'm only answering you like for devil's advocate funny reasons. Maybe you can only play him if you have super high stakes. So only he plays Russian roulette once a month or whatever for 5 years or whatever it's been.
Sure, but how did he become that celebrity? Just that one time he walked in and fucking
That's
picked up
all.
the gun? I don't know. It's
Go
just
on.
that part is weird. There's this like honestly, the act break, the first act break where they have the piano play was like my favorite part of the movie, because these motherfuckers finally shut up for a second and stopped like yelling over each other and being assholes to each other. Like the first act of this movie is just really annoying to me.
I somewhat agree. Like I'm along with you.
I thought that some of the scenes when they were in Vietnam were well done and compelling, although I agree with you, Ian, that it really was not done in a culturally sensitive way at all. But
it's not just it's schlock. Like that's it's the end scene is is almost a Glorious Bastards scene, because you have the Vietnamese guy with the one sunglass on and
sure.
And but where good schlock embraces that schlock, this is a level of pretension of attempting to be a like do this deep dive into these characters, and then all of a sudden it turns into a like
the
also
end of
you have
Bloodsport, you know,
yeah, and then and it just tonally clashed for me and narratively clashed for me. Sorry, but I was very upset while watching this.
Yeah, but I mean, that said, I'm going to agree with you guys. I think it's a 1 for plot. I thought this was a bad plot, and for one of the like movies that's up here is like listed as one of the 100 best American films of all time. You know, we've obviously run into bad movies on this list before, and we've torn them apart before, but this one kind of surprised me. I expected to like it, and I did not really. So, anyway, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I was surprised that I've never watched this, and I'm surprised at how much I didn't really get swept up in it overall. I mean, I've watched some of the older, longer classics like Lawrence of Arabia or something like that, where it's like it has a war element, it has a story element, it has a love element. There's all these pieces and characters, and even like maybe some racist character, depictions, and you're just like, well, that's of its period. I think the things that I think of immediately watching this movie are like, is this the original like Oscar bait? Like all these people are trying to win awards simultaneously in one moment, like everybody on the screen wants to win an award. I know a lot of these other things were mentioned, but Kazali's like actually dying, for real life during the movie, and Meryl Streep's, caring for him, and there's all this backstory or whatever that like you could see they're actually emotional being there, and the people want to be there and they care. They think that this is an important story. And, I think one of the things that is important to note is it's probably one of the first real movies that dealt with Vietnam. So I'm trying to place it in context where like the movies come later into that period, right?
This came a year before.
The director, sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ian.
The director himself said that Vietnam was incidental to this film. It's apolitical.
The word of God states it's not that important, or like not the context that
whatever people had grasped of commentary on Vietnam, that wasn't his intention going in. Now, granted, is that important? Maybe, maybe not. But the idea is that, to me, the war is incidental to the story he's telling.
This guy Cimino, though, is also a fucking crazy person. Like if you ever read any of this of his interviews or things like that, I did a little bit of looking into him today, and he's like, he said a lot of shit that like made no sense. So like him saying that it's apolitical, sure, but this is the first movie that tackled Vietnam, and they sold it like thinking it wasn't going to do shit because
actually they sold it as the schlock it is, because they're saying on the posters they're saying that this is a hard, like, if you're under 17, you must have an adult with you. Like they were playing up the taboo nature of this film because they knew it would. And to the point is that just because you have great actors in this, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Next Generation had Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, and it doesn't make it a good movie.
Right.
So and good actors trying to do the best with the material they have.
It makes sense, but I was about to say I think what it is it's trying to lead to, I don't like Monet, I don't like Thomas Kincaid paintings of nature, but many people do, right? I don't love certain type of novel, but I appreciated that they gave their characters a long level of depth and made you try to care about them. So if you wanted to, you could. I actually I thought the wedding scene, I don't call it the wedding scene, the whole area, I think it actually was one of the nicest ways to really give your characters as much depth so it would matter by the end, because otherwise this movie is really a nightmare. If you made this movie like 10 minutes early and then you did the rest of the stuff, it's like, first of all, you don't even know who's going to her originally. It's kind of confusing. Like, then they start seeing the pictures of them like 10 years before them. Like they look like they're 12 years old in those pictures behind them. I don't know if they couldn't get, a recent shot of De Niro or Christopher Walken. Are they in high school still, or are they 37 years old? I think Walken's like 20 and like De Niro's like 50, and you're just like, I don't know. But I mean, I'm trying to like say, I really did appreciate the movie as a depiction of, something leads to now is like Rust Belt, people sacrifice of culture, connectivity, everyone cares, and you're introducing 7-8 brand new characters with no backstory and not trying to make them like pure prototypes. So I give them credit on that front as a feeling, but the story doesn't fit that process. So I'm gonna lean, like Scott was at, about a 1 with like a 1.5, because I do like that early thematic like vicious cycle explanation. So it's not on the length, it's on the actual execution, I think.
Actually, Joe, I agree completely. I really enjoy the character work in this, but it's just that what came after which bothered me. Anyway, on to themes with Steve.
Hold on 1 second. I want to just mention, I did look that up. They're both, De Niro and Walken, were 35 when they were filming this, which is like, Jesus Christ, guys, you couldn't get somebody younger. I mean, that's what they had to have them, and also, I just want to mention before I don't really get another chance to say this, I'm not sure why any woman would ever attend a wedding if this is the way that their weddings are. Like, if you weren't getting felt up or beat up, like at this wedding, you weren't shown.
Option you have in whatever town they're in Pennsylvania, man.
But I must say that De Niro's portrayal of getting drunk in the back and silently glowering is the Russian way. So he did that really well.
He's the method actor.
Anyway.
And the dancing was actually good. I'm gonna give like it gives you a little early walk-in peek. Be like he was a trained dancer. They showed off the moves and everyone was into it. And De Niro was like, I'm not getting into this. So he didn't want to join the party. You could tell right away. Like everyone else wanted to live.
I mean, you are right about that. The dancing was fun.
I thought that.
Yeah.
Like, well, at least Walken gets to dance in here, and like the choreography was good. I guess we'll say.
I mean, he's in Weapon of Choice like 30 years later. So it's basically like the bookends of a dancing career is Deerhunter and a Fatboy Slim video. So
There's no Sam Rockwell though. Anyways, Stephen, on to you with the themes of this.
Yeah, sure. There's obviously the big theme of like war changes you. War, you come back from war, but no, it doesn't really. I'm not sure about this one because De Niro isn't really. Everybody else kind of is. Like everybody else that goes to war is like has their personality changed. De Niro would still be if you went to a wedding after he got back, he would still be in the corner glowering and doing the same exact shit. He kind of stays the same, maybe a little bit more like unhinged, but he's kind of the exact same person after he gets back.
He was kind of an asshole beforehand.
Yeah.
And he's kind of an asshole afterwards.
Exactly.
He didn't like any of these people to begin with, and he doesn't like them when he gets back. Like, I don't know.
Even less so.
Yeah.
and he can't. I mean, he can't kill the buck though, so he's changed. That's why.
Right.
Like he can't hunt the deer. That's it, pretty much. Sorry, got the title here.
But
Can't
he
hunt the
can
deer.
Russian roulette his friend, so that's.
And throw their guns away and wave them around and I don't know, whatever. Yes.
I was reading that scene they used a live round in the gun. They had a live round in the gun where the guy was like,
Seems like the DGA wouldn't approve that.
he was compulsively checking it every time they did a scene. I was like, fuck yeah. He was compulsively checking it to make sure it wasn't the next round of the fight.
Well, wasn't it? I think what it said wasn't it Walken was pointing it at it was Walken and De Niro and Cazale was checking it. So he's not even in the shot, right? Or that's the one Cazale's in it.
Yeah,
it was very confusing on who was doing what. And it's just like, yeah, you're slimy. I got it. Like, oh man, sorry. That's
yeah.
No, that's really funny.
Themes. Are we in the themes yet? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's supposed to be, it's dealing with the way that war changes you as a person is supposed to be a major theme of this, and I think that you see those changes more in Walken and my namesake,
I don't remember his
Eve,
name.
than you do in De Niro's character, who is the main focus of who is the titular deer hunter.
Yes.
So I mean, I guess it's, a theme. I don't know if it's strong enough to get a 1. And I'm sure, there's other underlying things going on here too. Maybe, but that's kind of what I had coming in. So what do you guys think?
Here and there, I suppose. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I'm going to agree. I don't much more to add or say, but like just that what you said, I think I'm paraphrasing. Like the movie wants those things, that to be the theme, right? But does it get there? Does it execute it? Does it cross a finish line? I'm not sure if it does, and perhaps less so than I even thought like going into it. Like again, the last time I saw Deerhunter was fucking 10 years ago or more. And so like my interpretation, my reaction to it is dramatically different than when I originally watched it. So yeah, while it like sort of has the trappings of those themes, I don't think there's enough there. Like you said, like, and maybe this flows into the next question or protagonist, right? De Niro's character, Michael, learns nothing, achieves not much, and starts off in one spot and pretty much ends it in the same fucking spot. Like, if not in a worse way, like, if not like regressing even more so to a degree. So like, that's where I'm coming down on it. And again, like sport, like that will flow into when we get to it. But yeah, that's how I'm interpreting the themes of this movie. Like, and even like knowing some of the background, the research that you did and like you guys said, right? Given that, I don't think I can give it credit. Like, it wants you to get on board with it, but I don't think I can. So,
this movie reminded me quite a bit of Requiem for a Dream, in the sense that in how everyone ends up. That you have 3 friends going forward, getting their lives upended by their own choices, because there's nothing about the draft in here. It's in fact, it's almost like the draft didn't happen in this world. They choose to go over to Vietnam, and one ends up addicted to heroin, killing himself. One ends up broken as a human, and one friend ends up perfectly fine.
But ends up singing "God Bless America" at the end of the movie.
Same as he ever was, essentially. Yeah.
Probably.
But I do think it's about demonizing, like it's what all these kind of fear of the others stories have to say, and that's stay home, be American, and don't go to foreign countries.
Yeah, you leave your small mining town, you're fucked. So don't ever do that.
Don't sign up
Troubles
for
afoot.
war, at least for sure.
Yeah, don't sign up. Don't sign up for war. That's for sure. I mean, they got that warning. They didn't heed it. They show that guy, the soldier. He doesn't say something. He's not happy, but they're excited to go anyway. You know, on the themes, I was trying. You know, when you watch it, there's a lot. I think that vicious cycle is an important theme, and that's always a theme. But you know, you do want to. I mean, it feeds into the obvious anti-movement at that point already. Way anti-movement against the war. You know, that had been in place for 5 years. So it's like not breaking new ground in that regard. Maybe in the film respect, yeah. You were about,
there was a criticism, contemporary criticism that was pro-war, and actually one of the generals who perpetuated a lot of the terrible things the Americans did over Vietnam loved this film. The idea of like they portray the Vietnamese as throwing grenades into hiding holes, that they're just monsters. So there was a big argument that it was that you took what you wanted out of it, whether you wanted to be anti-war or pro-war. You could find that in this film.
I could see it both ways there, and I feel like that's kind of always the case. But I could see by the end of it, I don't know anyone could say that they're pro-war by the end of the movie. No one, you know, one guy's shitting in a cooler, one guy's, you know, a ghoul in a hut with some people that want $10,000 to come inside to the same room that's somehow in a different room. That was the same room, right? Are we not? Did anyone not say that it's the exact same gambling room, but somehow he couldn't get into it? It was the exact, like it looked like they just shot in the same place 5 minutes later, but somehow put it behind a different door. You know, but and the other thing, you know, that this is so 70s, and this style is these like landscape shots and repetition of these buildings, right? I think that's the thing we're missing here that he wanted to get through was, you know, the landmarks of civilization and how they drill you out, and the drum of life beating you down, the sound, like there's a whole bunch of things going on, the sound, the church, and you hear all the time the factories there kicking, and it's like for 3 hours straight. I don't want to live near a factory. There's a reason I moved away from the train tracks, because I don't want to hear them anymore. So you know, maybe I learned my lesson. I just want to point out, this is my favorite way of figuring out themes of movies, though, is figuring out what the alternate title of this movie would be. And I came up with a couple while I was watching. It was Just Like Old Times, Coming Home, which was taken by another movie, obviously. Rolling Rock the movie. I like that one. It's my favorite. And this is my favorite is How Do You Like Your Eggs? That was my personal favorite. So you know, that's pretty much your themes.
Your titles are fantastic, but I just want to make a quick critique on the pro-war mentality of this, because you're right. You're saying that you said that it's obvious at the end that it's anti-war, except that if you look at the prototypes of the people who Michael, Robert De Niro's character, is the stoic John Wayne hero. He's American ideal from the cowboy movies, and he survives intact. Who are the ones that suffered? Well, we have Christopher Walken's character, who said, "Oh, I don't like hunting. I like the trees." He's more of the flowery, effeminate poet type. And then you had kind of the weak cuckold. He's legitimately a cuckold in this. Is the one who it's the John Wayne archetype that survives the war and thrives from the war. So you could argue that the weak-willed American male is the one who gets punished, and the strong American male is the one who survives.
But in the movies that they want to make the way of glorifying it, we win and everyone's happy at the end. If you wanted to pick a we win and we're happy at the end war, this wasn't the one. And I think he doesn't get away scot-free. You know, like there's not like you come home, there's a celebration. He's avoiding the celebration. So I agree that it's not glorifying. It may not say as bad as the normal one, because it doesn't show much actual war, right? It shows them already getting captured, and it shows this like the what they did to the people that are in that place, basically, right there. You have the woman with the child and everything else. So, I could see why someone would like even the guy you were talking about. He's taking a moment that he likes out of that movie and saying this is the good part. And just one more thing on the John Wayne, if you did your more research, I believe John Wayne's last appearance at the Oscars was giving this movie Best Picture. And he was not a fan of this movie. So there you go. So if his not being a fan says that it's anti-war because he thought it was anti-war, I'll take that enough that John Wayne didn't like it, so it's anti-war.
Well, I like anything John Wayne.
Kudos to that knowledge there.
But yeah, no, I think that you guys are right and on some good points there.
No, anyway.
Still 0, by the way. If we got, do we even know any scores here? I'm sorry.
Me too. We moved on. No, seriously, because of everything, like a conglomeration of everything we just said. Like, yeah, you might be able to glean one side, but I think it's mostly like it just doesn't. It's so broadly applied, but no depth to it. That I think that's why I'm going to give it a 0.
We're arguing about the minutiae here for what other. Nonetheless, on to antagonist. It's either the Vietnamese, which are portrayed as monsters in this, which I guess if we're arguing that that was their intent, they did a good job on that. They might as well be.
They made them one-dimensional, enemies.
But you could also say PTSD. But I'm going to cede my point over to Tim O'Brien, who I think is one of the best authors on the Vietnam War, who, from what I understand, disliked this film as well for the portrayal of the Vietnamese. There was a big movement saying that this wasn't a good portrayal. Other people did like this who were Vietnam vets, but I don't think this was a good portrayal of PTSD or anything like that. So, again, I'm very hostile to this film, so I'm going to give it a 0, but I'm willing to hear comments.
I mean, I might waver on this one. This one of the ones that's iffy upon because, yeah, on the surface, like you could of course make that argument, like you said, Joe. Like it's going to be almost broadly true, like in so many cases that it's almost like a cop out to call it that. But like, I still felt at least that Michael, if we're gonna like probably say agree and that he's the protagonist, that if we are supposed to buy into his antagonism. He wanted to like bring his friends back, right? He wanted to be how it was beforehand, but you can't go home again. I guess maybe I should have said that in themes, right? So like, yeah, he felt like alienated, and as if, especially when it comes back from the war and everyone trying to treat him as a hero, and isn't like trying to avoid that, like you said, like he's trying to he specifically purposely avoids the homecoming party. He's like, it's not what you think it is. Like I'm not happy. I'm not trying to celebrate here. Like I'm just trying to get back home, but. You can't it's been changed so much that he does feel at least some kind of sting. And then the final act is him trying to bring back Nikki, Christopher Walken's character. And of course he fails at that. So like, I don't know, like, I guess maybe.
Oh,
I'm saying yes.
Steve-O just pointed out, I apologize for interrupting you on this. My first name's Jonathan, so I put a J. It's supposed to be Joe's. Was supposed to open this up.
I didn't even know. Well, I thought we just kind of went through went through the protagonist into the antagonist. I was just like, we've already gone pooped on all of them. So that's all right.
By
I'm
no
good.
means was this a
slight on you.
Slighting. Yeah, it was a slight on you. My bookkeeping was.
It's fine.
Anyway, sorry.
We're playing Russian roulette with the questions, anyways. Here, so.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's not PTSD, it's PTRRD because it's post-traumatic Russian roulette syndrome or whatever. So it's
but like I've just since you gave it to me, like I'm leaning towards a softer 0, probably because like again, while it's all surfacey there, and like yes, the characters, or at least the character that ostensibly is supposed to be the one we identify and follow through with, it's not delved in. It doesn't address it as much to the degree that I think it needs to be, and that does it justice. So that's where I'm looking at. So how about with that, Joe? What do you make of it?
So are we doing the antagonist as the war itself or as evil? I mean, I feel like I'm not the one usually to speak on these things, so that I can't usually settle on it. To me, between the protagonist of being 3 to 6 different people and not just Michael, and it's like I thought of it first, but I did do the research and it talked about how this was in the original story was one person, and they split it into three people to basically make it like a combination of the different sides of a person. So it was supposed to be one person, and he made it much more complex, the crazy looking weirdo guy, and wanted to like let them, then it goes into, if you go deep into every well, it goes to like homoeroticism and the love of man, and and every movie that's like a war movie leans that too. But antagonist wise, obviously the racist antagonist, it was probably the most interesting part of the movie, but it wasn't nice. I would definitely go that way. Like I liked that the repetitive intro. I thought it gave that, like, I know it wasn't the exact same words, but I liked that with the bullet drop. If you use that guy or the evils of that people as an antagonist. I like the weird French guy. Like there's a lot of weird antagonistic characters. Is whatever is, yeah. So I mean, they all seemed fine, but out of all these, I'm not too hot on the antagonism. There's a lot of antagonism in this movie, but I wouldn't say that there's much of a feeling of a good antagonist overall.
No, thank you. I think I'm going to use that and paraphrase it. My final thought, and to give it a 0, is that, they try to spread it out a bunch, but it's not, again, they don't give enough of each angle, enough time, room / etc. to breathe, to make it all gel into a effective antagonist. So that's why I'm sticking with the 0. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the war, or at least like, each of their experiences with the war is supposed to be kind of the antagonist here. And like I said, I don't really get the feeling that the war affected De Niro, who's the one that, Mike, who's the one who's like really focused on in this movie. I don't feel like it was a good antagonist for him. I feel like that's where he he's like written to be in a war, and like feels like that from the very beginning of this movie until the very end of it. And I feel like that was the only time he was like at home, right? Now there are certainly movies that explore that idea, that
Platoon.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that's what this one was trying to do. I think that they just made this character and thrust him into a war, and they were like, yeah, he was built for war, he's perfect for this. And like, maybe you're right, maybe it's like the three guys were three sides of what should have been one character, and that was the aggressive John Wayne type personality of the three. But I don't see the war being a great antagonist for him. And you do see what happens to the other two characters, but you don't spend enough time with them afterwards to really get the feeling that it's
not an
effective antagonist. Yeah, an impactful antagonist, I guess. At least in terms of the way that I watched it. So I think that's where I'm sitting, is probably a 0 for antagonists in terms of that.
Although everyone talks about, just one last comment with it. Everyone talks about how tense the Russian roulette scenes are. I found them silly, and I think that
parodied so much too.
No, but I thought it was so over the top that it was like my old Slovakian grandmother, when I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street, like, oh, this is adorably silly. And now I understand it. It didn't have any, but nonetheless. On to Scott, you with protagonist.
All right, so good. It's a nice segue flow, because I'm waiting to say this. Robert De Niro as Michael, whatever his last name is for the most part a motherfucking Gary Stu. He's the best at everything, right? He's ostensibly the heart and soul of their group, and even of like the town, the little small mining town at large. And that goes back to what you guys said about the John Wayne-ification, I guess, if I can use that term, like, of his character. So like, again, but that means like he quote unquote saves his friends, but then he doesn't. Like, that's the kind of the point too. Like, he wants to, and like is trying to, but he can't. But yet he's still like celebrated as like a triumphant like personage. Like, it's bizarre. So like, while I think De Niro did a fine portrayal with what he was given, like with what the script, called for that character to be and behave like, I still don't know, because again, like, it goes back to like, he's too good at everything. Like, he's the best deer hunter, like, taking you hunting, okay, and then he's like the aloof guy, like you said, like in the corner at the wedding, like just being observant of it all, like, I'm above it all, whatever, right? Oh, okay, we got, the tense scene in the hut with the Russian roulette. He's like, all right, I can get us out. I'm gonna will us out of here. I'm gonna do it, right? And he does. So like he literally says what he's gonna do and does it. And yes, like again, rescues them, but also then leaves his friend's characters like he doesn't actually save them. He rescues them physically, but not mentally and emotionally, I guess. And then at the very end, he's like, now I'm back home and here I am. And like, yeah, he's somewhat more adrift and aloof, but he still seems to like be like, all right,
I'm gonna bang my friend's fiance.
I guess I get to bang Meryl Streep now because Nicky shot himself in the head. And
oh no, he does that before.
Right, he sees it before, but
because he's a gentleman.
It's almost moot. Like I don't know. Like I might be convinced of a soft 1, but I'm leaning toward a soft 0 because of the character itself, not because of De Niro's portrayal. He did what was on the page, and like he's a good actor at his heyday in a sense. Like when he was becoming like huge. Like it's funny. Like just real quickly, precast. We looked up what was before and after this on the AFI, and Joe asked like, "Oh, it's MASH," or like two like other gritty films that like follow it. So my final thought is, as of this moment, what I'm scoring it is a soft 0 because of everything I said, because I just think there's not quite enough there. He does the best he can with what he's given, but what he's given is just a little iffy. So with that, open it up.
Yeah. I was going to say that's, just that comp right there. I think exemplifies it, overall. I'm trying to think of another rarefied airtight De Niro performance that I would be as underwhelmed watching today. And this would probably be the winner. I've watched Goodfellas recently. I've watched Godfather recently, and Once Upon a Time in America, right? He's in Once Upon a Time in America. And this movie just kind of is like this. It's not even the silent, has no charm, right? He's charmless. So it's like, they had to like pull all of his charm and put it in Christopher Walken. Like his job is like, I am a machine. I am the Terminator of this party and boring, but I'm also not that good at it. And it's like, who the war, like when you were talking about how does it, the war didn't even affect him. It didn't affect him, but who the war affected him. So it's like, he doesn't even have his own personality, right? Like, he loves the going out to the hump, but then he goes out to the war, and it's all like he comes back. He cares for his friend who he was ready to let go when he was in the rats, right?
Yeah,
he's saying he's going to go back to like save him, but he's like, I came 12,000 miles to come get you. You're not coming with me. Wah. And it's like, this guy's fucked. Like, you're like whining at him as he's like, strung out and, tortured. And I don't know. I mean, this is definitely, as a protagonist, it's not good. As a performance, it's probably, the weakest. And then the like relationship with Meryl Streep is uniquely bad. It's like this like weird lay down next to like, I can't be comforted. I don't want to comfort. Like I understand that's the point, but it just
bizarre.
It doesn't show off. And then they're like filming him, it's like filming everybody in the dark the whole time. And you're just like, they're sad in the dark. And are we supposed to care? Like usually the protagonist, you're supposed to care. In some instance, I don't know what I'm supposed to care about. That like he cared when he died. That's pretty much it. And then he went to the VA, even though he was told not to. And he tried, but he's the one, it seems he's also doesn't have a family. The other guy, Walken, doesn't seem to have a family, and everyone else has a huge family. Like it didn't all jibe, the whole like thing. So it's just, for all that went into it and all the hunting and all the deers and all the other greatness, it's a 0. It's a 0 protagonist.
You convinced me. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, like, it's a more hardcore 0 for me now, given what you just said, Joe. Yeah.
I mean, that's a several very good points there. I don't think that De Niro really pulls this off, and what they really needed to do to make the last part when he comes back home land was for me to actually give a shit about De Niro in that whole like wedding scene, I guess, or like the whole lead up and the hunting and the deer hunting, and I really never did. Like I never. And in order to sell him and Meryl Streep's character getting together, I really needed to feel some chemistry between them at the beginning. And the last you see of the two of them together, she fucking runs away from him. like in fear that he's gonna like do something terrible, I guess, or whatever. But like the minute Walken's character walks into the room, she just like tears off away out of the fucking room.
No.
So
Yeah, it's a bizarre dynamic.
Yeah.
But he's wacky because he likes to strip naked and run around the town.
yeah.
So
I guess that was supposed to be the humanizing moment, right?
It's like a Tyler Durden because like she runs away. She's like, they're splits of the same character. When she sees the angry part of Christopher Walken, who's Robert De Niro, she runs away. Like that's pretty much what it is, right? I mean,
I was not here. Nikki's gone away.
For sure.
And it's definitely the most awkward hotel scene I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know what that was. They had to like do a half nude scene for 5 seconds and then lie next to each other. Like, I don't know what that was supposed to evoke, except for this guy doesn't know what's fucking up, So
Yeah.
It's all strongly. It's more strongly than a zero, I think, than even on the outset.
So Joe, since I stole your thunder before,
what am
would
I
you like to
doing?
begin with supporting characters?
Sure, that I can steal some thunder. And I did not look up actor names on this one. I usually am pretty good at that. But, we went through them a little bit earlier. But, I know it's racist, but I actually like the performances. Those were definitely non-real major actors. And I think that even though those scenes could have been even hokier and could have had that over-the-top part, I'm specifically like the second version of the Russian roulette, where they're in the dingy bar room one, whatever you call that. I was gonna say where they would be fighting chickens or whatever back there. Cockfighting back there. That one was very effective. I thought it was overall when it came to the one during the war. I really like my buddy George DeZunda, how you say that. He's always been a favorite of mine. The more I've watched some 70s movies recently, 80s movies, he pops up. But he's early Law and Order, that throwback that he's really good in it. He gets to show off that like little tinkling the ivories, actually singing. He like gives the actual energy of like this being a real friendship. Like the rest of them don't seem to be friends with each other, and then he's like everybody's friend. Like that guy's like the norm or the glue. Like the glue. Yeah.
Wait, is this the Chris Farley like guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he's got the charm and the pathos, and he's the one you actually care about because he seems to be so much like the heart of a lot of this movie. So I thought he's good. I thought Meryl Streep in her limited era, even though I'm not a big Meryl Streep fan, was actually pretty effective. And you could see, watching these earlier movies, like this and what Kramer versus Kramer and some other movies that's why she became more famous later on. But I don't know. I'm not huge on her now. I liked, the whole crew. Kazali was a little over the top, but you're giving him a pass and that's his move. He's Fredo. Like that's what he does. So, there's a lot in there. And we mentioned the French guy. I'll just say Clouseau, I'll call him, even though he's not an inspector because he's a French guy in the dark. And overall, this would be a 1 just for a nice collection of randos. And because it doesn't, and if we're giving Walken on that side, I liked a lot of parts of Walken's performance. The character, devolves into a kind of a stereotypical like drug addict thing at the end. And I don't like that, like zombie, but every other part of his performance I thought was actually pretty strong. And he did win Best Supporting Actor for the movie. So, it's understandable.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to mostly follow suit. I think maybe this might be one of the stronger-ish points, at least a point I can give more credit to on the film. Yeah, I think the collective cast was solid. Like, I bought into it well enough, and it's funny, Joe, I forgot that Meryl was in this movie until she showed up. I was like, holy shit, yeah, that's right. I forgot it was her, right? So, it's fine. Her part is fine, and she does a good job enough with it. But yeah, you're right, I don't remember his name, but the guy who the bar guy who plays piano, even Stanley, their little skinny sort of sleazy guy who's the friend of theirs, I bought their friendship well enough, even if it was a little artificial seeming at times. But you're right, the collective cast fills out the world and does a good job enough of it to make it believable and organic enough that I will buy into it, and I will give it an okay to solid 1 on that front.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid supporting cast. I think you named pretty much everybody I was going to say. I did want to mention this was actually Meryl Streep's first nomination for an Oscar. Now she has fucking a million. So
was it before Sophie's Choice? I meant to mention Sophie's Choice here because I don't like Sophie's Choice very much either. But
I thought that it was a pretty good cast. Like you mentioned, George Dzunza, I believe is his name, as John. Like I said earlier, that scene where he plays piano and the act break, basically, was one of my favorite parts of this movie because it's just a moment of quiet. And like, I didn't realize how fucking obnoxious and loud every character had been until they all shut up for a minute.
I'm about to tell you about that in a second, but I agree.
And like, so I thought that was like a really nice moment. And like I didn't absolutely hate all of them for that moment. Like, they just like shut up and like listen to him play piano and kind of like were more human than this like noise box that they had been like leading up to that point and like just talking. Like there's just seemed like there was constant like commotion all the time. So that was cool.
Because there was.
Yeah, well, exactly. I agree. I thought that Meryl Streep did do a good job in this role. I wish that she had any chemistry at all with De Niro, but whatever.
I wish she had more of a personality than being defined by the men around her, whether it's her abusive father or her two love
That was
interests.
so cliche. Yeah. Later, like, come on, really? Like, I didn't remember that at all. I'm like, this is just.
Yeah, I forgot about that scene where they're like serves literally no purpose other than
What's the point of that? Exactly.
Like,
to give her a bruise on her face, pretty much. I was going to give a quick call out to Stevie's mom, who we've not mentioned Stevie at any reason because he's the whiny crap character that you want removed from every movie all the time. Like, I understand the point is you're supposed to care about him at the end, but it's like, man, I kind of wish he didn't get out of that rat trap. Like I thought he was dead, and I thought I wasn't happy, but I thought it was. And like, okay, we'll go to the mom. She already looks like she's dressed for the funeral. She wasn't happy with the wife, and instead we get this like distraught Adrian type, Rocky Adrian type character who can't speak, in the darkness with a kid, and everyone's life is ruined. And like, but the mom in the beginning, I like she's sassy and she's calling him out right away. So like, she's the only one that knows what's really going on. So I'll give the Polish, Russian, whatever, Czechoslovakian mom a little shout out too.
that's a good call.
I have one scene I want to mention because you guys covered most of it, but it's perhaps my favorite scene for all the wrong reasons in this. So Christopher Walken gets back and he's in the VA hospital, in the hospital and he's giving his best performance of just like breaking down. He's reliving the trauma of it. Meanwhile, the doctor's standing there with his metal thing, just staring at him in the most awkward way possible. And then they cut to this black guy who has his arms cut off, who's looking up. And it's like, I just kept imagining that the black guy was thinking like, shut up, honky, you're fine. Like, look at me. Like, over here. And I guess it's for a pathos to Christopher Walken's character, but I'm like, geez, like, to me, it felt like every single white person who's like, look at all the traumas of racism, how it affects me. And meanwhile, there's that guy saying that. But that's my favorite scene in this film for all the wrong reasons because it made me laugh.
I thought you were going to go for the stereotypical prostitute scene that was right after that because they went straight from him in the hospital to walking into the, hey, baby, you want some fun times? And then they fucking take him up with the kid.
I don't want a crying baby in my...
that's the deal, Sealer. I don't want the crying baby.
It's not the baby. It's the fact the baby's crying. That's the problem.
Yeah, fucking. And it's not even a baby. It's like a 2-year-old, like basically standing there.
It was an icky scene, and you're like,
this child is making memories right now of you fucking.
You, my daddy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
If I have to give credit anywhere, supporting cast was for the most part fine.
Fair enough.
All right, Mr. Mosi, talk about dialogue.
Okay. It wasn't very good. It feels like no one in this movie can hear anything anyone else is saying. I'm not sure that I've ever seen another movie where people ask what more than this.
And say no. Go on.
They are constant, like every character is constantly saying what, especially De Niro's character. I also want to mention, I feel like I've never felt more loved than the scene where De Niro asks, "Where is Steve?" like 20 times in a row. I was like, thanks, De Niro. I really am glad that you're looking out and want to know where I am. But yeah, man, it's just like, it feels like it's half improvised and half written by somebody who's bad at writing dialogue. And I think that the only way that this movie comes away as like beloved as it became was because of the actors that were in it doing a good job with kind of not terrific dialogue. I honestly can't think of anything in this movie that I would really give like full credit to in terms of dialogue. Like there's no, like, I know there are, I guess, quotable lines from this, but there's nothing really memorable or stand out to me. So, I think it's a lot of like muddling. I feel like they were trying to make the dialogue seem natural and not succeeding very well,
and failed.
Yeah, and just making it feel more fabricated or like just unnatural. So yeah, I didn't love the dialogue in this movie. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, like, you said a lot that I was going to say, and yes, and you hit upon the point where the scene when he goes to visit Angela, I believe, is Steve's like widow or like former the woman he married before the war, right? And he's like, and this happens a lot. This happens like throughout the movie as well, but this is the one I'm going to focus on. Like, just tell me where Steve is. 5 fucking minutes of him saying the same dialogue, like, and like you're saying, like, he goes, "What people repeat the same line like over and over." And the wedding does it. After the war, they do it, like, and it's just grating. I'm like, come on, man, it's filler at this point. You're just having this character and this actor say the same fucking line in like maybe 2 or 3 different ways for 10 times, like, times 10 of it, and like, it's just grating. It got to me, and I was like, come on, fuck you. So I was coming in hot with a 0 on this one. Yeah. That is to say, like, largely because of that stuff, and just the rest of it, like you said, like, it seems as if the script thought it was better and/or more clever, if not clever, like more meaningful, more. There's more depth.
Poignant, right?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. It was supposed to be like this emotional, like, clash or connection or whatever, but it just didn't get there, and it became, in fact, like annoyingly grating, like I said, and that's why I'm looking at a 0. So pretty much to build on for that, and was my visceral reaction, and still is, even trying to like retroactively think about it and analyze it. That's how I'm laying down. So with that, go ahead, sirs.
Yeah, as I say, the most iconic scenes do not have dialogue, probably, and the most memorable things about this movie are when they're quiet or when they're just the sounds and the ambiance. So when that's your case, usually the dialogue is not the strong suit, and this does feel like like I know it was in some of the research, but it definitely was like a rush job to get it redone and add all these pieces. Yeah, so this was like this, the story of this whole movie was built around the Russian roulette. I don't know if no one got to that part, but, and if I feel like I said already, but like, that's what they did. They had an idea. They had Russian roulette. Where do we put it? Let's put it in a war. Okay. And now we have all these people who could do like tense, staring, sweaty scenes with headbands on and like jump out of the helicopter and do whatever. I mean, it's the chop suey dialogue. That's what I'd call it. It's just like you chop lines that seem like kind of, very emotional, and you put them in people's mouths that you're supposed to care about, and then you get nothing because
it falls fucking flat.
Yeah, it falls flat. You have these lines, like I wrote a couple down during it because I like my lines. Is you can't go back to the way it was, and you can't do this. And my favorite one that was repeated over and over and over again is, "Don't take my gun. It's my gun. It's my gun." And you have like him it's like 10 times. It's like he pulls out that little gun and waves it around, and then all the takeaway from that is he throws the gun in the water or something in the forest. Like after 2.5 hours, you're like, that gun's going to do something. Nothing happens with the gun. It's just like the antithesis of Chekhov's gun. I mean, it's like, I need my gun, wow, wow, wow. And the only thing there's definitely some grunts and, some screaming and the "Where's Steve" that were, the old school, soundboard, back in the day when doing prank calls, Scott, I can remember like when I'm listening to this, oh, that's where this is from. Like I've had that moment a few times lately. Like, oh, that's when he got that annoying line from. It's like, oh, you did it, Stevie. Oh. It's like, it's really just,
yeah, you're right. That's so funny.
I don't know, but so this is not, the dialogue is in line with, I think the overall is a nil for sure.
Oddly enough, I'm going to talk about a character's dialogue to reference my point about it, is that Fredo at a certain point goes, "You keep referencing this one bullet, one shot, but what does it mean? What does it mean?" And he's like, they're talking about the fact that it's filled with vapid symbolism that means nothing.
And wants to say something, but says nothing.
So unless they're making a meta commentary about the nature of symbolic dialogue in film, I'm a big fan zero.
It's their appeal for peace. Don't you know that? It's put down your guns, guys. Put down your guns. But shoot yourself in the head, over and over again. And we'll make you do it. Put down your guns. So
All right, Joe, keep talking about style.
okay, so I've complained a lot about the style in general, but I'm gonna have to I'm gonna give this one a solid one for for all the outside the line players. To me, style is everybody else. I think the scenery is well done. I think the locations are well done. I think the sets, you have the church looks, is a good choice. I think they shot in a real steel factory. Like everything seems very realistic. The bar that they created that I believe then it says that they ended up making an actual bar afterwards, but wasn't a bar beforehand. Like you could see how realistic this felt like the place that it was supposed to be. Even the war parts felt like that. So all around, I think that the production, the design, I found it annoying, but it was very effective. The sound was perfectly done for what it was supposed to be. I think it was like a droning annoyance. So for all those reasons, I would definitely, lean towards a 1 for this one.
I will follow suit as well. Like, yeah, if I'm going to give credit to film on any points, style would be one of the ones that I would, and I am for largely what you said. Like, and you referenced it earlier, so let me bring it back. Like, De Niro, like, I guess it goes back to dialogue a little bit. Like, yo, you want a Rolling Rock? Best beer around. I'll get you a Rolling Rock, right? And like, it feels like a working town bar, the church that's in their town, like you said, all that. And like, yeah, even the Vietnam stuff in Saigon looked fine. Like, and yeah, cinematography, I think lighting and blocking was pretty solid as well throughout the film. So if nothing else, and the score as well, like worked for what it was intended to be, even if that meant it was intending to be grating / annoying, just like drilling into you for a lot of times. That was on purpose.
Well, the score was that hokey, like 70s music that they put like behind like every cop show. And it sounds like, I don't know what that is. But
yeah, you're right. Like, I know it's
sex.
like, but it seemed to work more often than not, I guess we might say. And like, that's fine. And everything else, like I said, like you said, and then I'm following suit with, yeah, like good enough, solid 1 for me on style. So sure.
Go ahead. Good.
I was an altar boy in Russian Orthodox Church, and they painfully recreated a painful amount of detail that in recreating this to an absurdly weird level that they went into detail about the Orthodox faith and their design. It almost out of place, but I appreciate the level of accuracy they were putting into everything from the crowns above the head during to the style of the church to the little the whatever the vestibule maybe or whatever first of all, that reception hall is exactly the reception hall that every single working class Russian Orthodox family has.
It's a sense of VFW hall or Warsaw. What's it called?
Yeah, I've been to more of those kind of halls for family events than I care to admit, but I have to give credit for that weird level of detail. It in a movie that doesn't need it. It's just like we're going to divert an hour of this film to documenting Orthodox faith.
In this case, it's literally style over substance, and like that's fine, I suppose. You got to give it credit on that.
Yeah, I think that the things that really stood out to me, and you're right about the level of detail there, which is pretty incredible. I think the thing that stood out to me are the sound design for sure. I thought that was really well done, and just cinematography. Like we were talking about the landscape shots and things like that, and like the scenery shots. I think that those were really impressive. And I just thought that style was the most like you said, Joe, like the outside the lines guys or people were the most impressive parts of this movie. Even like, costuming was really good and
set design and all that.
Yeah. I don't know why De Niro never took off his uniform, but
I did wonder that as well.
How many clothes he had?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't give the credit to the editor, although I think there was a story about how the editor was like threatened at gunpoint when he tried to cut down the first hour, because that's like the whole point. Like they didn't put in the script that it was going to be like an hour long scene in the first half, and like when when people saw that, and yeah, that attention to detail in that I'm going to call it the bingo hall, but I know it's just the hall of everything with the drinking and the pictures and this, and they had the band, and they had the creepy ass grabbing musician place with the white the tuxedo, and the don't touch it, and then like they're actually wearing the tuxedos in the mud, and he puts down a little piece of paper when he sits down in to do that. I don't know, maybe it's the thing about the 70s where they love shooting like accurately in religious settings, Godfather, like the attention to detail once they get in the church is like gotta do it pristine, so
I'm validating that they got everything correct, but like it is weird. Anyway, is that all on style, or should we move on?
On that front, so that was on one.
All right, Scott. Two questions: would you recommend this, and does this deserve to be on the AFI?
At this point, no, I probably wouldn't recommend it. And also, no, like, again, maybe I just misremembered, or having been so far removed from the years in which I saw this movie last, like, I guess I can see why they did put it on the AFI, but I don't agree for it being there at this point. And I don't recommend it. Not enough deer, not enough hunting, like, is going to be my outro, but I'm saying here, like, it's like, you're right. I think Joe and/or Steve-O, you said something like, what it's known for, like why it's probably on there is because of the actors who are in it, not because of the movie itself, like and maybe just the cultural zeitgeist or whatever. Like, again, like they felt compelled to include it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I would say it can go away. If it's going to be on the AFI, it should drop like 40 spots to 90 something or whatever. And it could easily go away.
Replace Ben-Hur.
Yeah, Ben-Hur can drop off completely, as we said when we did that. And I guess Deerhunter could be at 98 or whatever it is, 99 even. So yeah, like, to answer your question, 0 to both. I think it could easily go away. It's fine that it's, I guess, in the somewhat cultural zeitgeist, but it does not need to be on the American Film Institute list, and I don't recommend it for such. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. Here's the thing. There are a lot of people that would contend that, like, this movie changed cinema in a lot of ways and stuff like that. I'm not sure that's entirely the case. A, and B, this won the Best Picture that year. The next year, Apocalypse Now came out and lost Best Picture. That is the Vietnam movie we should be.
That's the real travesty over here, yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, like the real, Vietnam movie came out the
best
year after.
war movie ever.
Yeah, and that's why not only am I not going to recommend it, but it can go off this list because Apocalypse Now is on the list, cemented, and is, I think, the movie you should watch if you want to watch a movie about the horrors of the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's me.
Yeah, I think I probably will say this always when someone asks me if I recommend it. It's like, to who? Unless we're doing some kind of very right in the middle, I'm not sure. Again, who you recommend a 3-hour dreary movie that's based in the 70s with middling performances and bad, annoying characters oftentimes, and racism and rats and things that don't make sense and incongruous things too. Exactly. Again, Apocalypse Now, that's an easy one. Full Metal Jacket. Like, we could list every director had, like, if they did their war movie, they either did it good or bad. And I think when we did the Fincher, I think we talked a little bit about, he had his one war scene, and even his little war scene in his worst movie is better than the war scene, like, that are filmed in this, in Benjamin Button, he has like these weird military, ocean scenes. And it's like, yeah, like, this is like the war part of this war movie is it looks fine, but it doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like a private war. So yeah, it's just there. So who would I recommend it to? Not sure. AFI list. I haven't been on the whole list with you guys, but I can't. I think those lists are trying to be representative of periods and times and actors, but the only reason I would say is if you're trying to do completist of, like, you want to find some of the better performances by Christopher Walken or like some of the other actors, but if you're looking at this as a timepiece overall, not my top choice. Give me Taxi Driver, give me Godfather, give me Once Upon a Time in America, give me. I saw Raging Bull. I was not a huge fan of Raging Bull personally, but Raging Bull I'll take over at either. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a big De Niro fan. I've learned that watching like every one of these movies that the last 30 years of De Niro, I can't think of 2 or 3 movies that I even mildly enjoy him as the part of it. He's in some interesting movies, but he's not the interesting part of them usually. So I don't think he's a big deal. Maybe that's the real takeaway. There's my hot take. Robert De Niro, not a great actor.
That's okay.
I like that level of controversy there. I'm not going to recommend it either. In fact, I'm suggesting that Jacob's Ladder is a better representation of PTSD and is a much more for any intelligence I think people give this credit for. I think Jacob's Ladder is actually far more intelligent than this is, but that's my hot take on it. But overall, we've all given it 3s for the same reason.
Nice. That's awesome.
We give a 1 to plot because there is a plot in this. It falls apart. We gave 1 to supporting characters because there are supporting characters in this. And we gave a 1 to style, which is perhaps what this is most
movie looks
famous
pretty cool.
for. Everything else we've given a 0 to, which is a taking down of the Deerhunter. We can stuff and mount it. I am Jonathan Manzer, here with Stephen Ramosi.
Hey, have a good night.
Joe Soria.
What do you want from me? Where are you? Where's Steve?
And Scott Thurler.
Give it 3 bullets, 3 scores.
Have a good night, everyone.
Cheers. See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Stephen Ramosi. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.